Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, May 14th, and you are listening to episode 105 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. First up this week, congratulations go out to the winners of my second anniversary giveaway. I drew both winners this afternoon and emailed them and also tweeted at them. I did hear back from one of them, Serpentine, who plays NC on Connery, and he said he has his eye on some vehicle cosmetics and infantry armor, but with all the good new cosmetics coming out, it'll be hard for him to choose. Luckily, he won 2,000 Daybreak cash, so he can definitely get more than one. I did also have someone on Twitter ask if this contest was open to PS4 players, and while yes, it was open to PS4 players, I did have to unfortunately explain that the award or the prize was in-game currency for the PC side of the game. But I did make the decision while responding that I do need to run a PlayStation 4 only contest in the near future. So definitely, if you're a PlayStation 4 Planetside 2 player, stay tuned. I'm thinking probably the first weekend in June, I will launch a contest just for you guys. Second, I wanted to thank everyone again that is using my Amazon link to purchase their everyday things with. I know this month someone used my link to buy a whole slew of new computer parts, and over time they definitely add up. My goal has always been to keep this show cost neutral, so my wife has nothing to complain about. So again, thank you to everyone who's using that link, as well as all my other ways to donate to the show via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. Third and finally, I want to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. If you forgot to call your mother, shame on you. So, after all that, what is actually in store for this week's show? Well, first, a PC hotfix dropped on May 11th. We also had a construction playtest on the PlayStation 4 that I wanted to talk about. And then I want to talk about the controversy that is surrounding the May 11th PC hotfix. And finally, I'll finish up with a little new implant talk. All that plus some listener mail. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast.
All right, we got at least one.
First up this week, the May 11th PC hotfix. I was surprised to see this one drop when it did. We didn't hear too much about this being on PTS or anything like that before this came out, so I know this was a surprise to me as well as to a lot of the other players on the PC side. And the biggest thing that we got in this hotfix is directive-based implant rewards. And we're looking at a whole list of new new directives that once they are completed and they're tier 1 directives, that you're going to unlock some implants, basically for newer players to getting their foot in the door for objective leadership as well as different classes within the game itself. So now you're able to earn one novice implant pack, and that's 2 random non-exceptional implants by completing the following directives, and these are the Tier 1 Combat Medic, Light Assault, Heavy Assault, Infiltrator, and Engineer directives. And you can also earn 1 basic implant pack, and that is 3 random implants, and this does include the exceptional implants by completing the following directives, and this would be the Tier 1 leadership and the Tier 1 objectives and the Tier 2 leadership directive. So interesting that these got dropped into the game, and clearly it is a way for new players specifically to earn some implants because they don't have that massive amount of search that a lot of veterans do have to play this. Now, one thing, or one unfortunate thing, or some people see it as a bad thing, and something I'm going to talk about a little bit more later on in the show, is that you are not retroactively awarded implants for completing these. So it's only something that you will receive implants on completing these for the first time on your character or creating a new character, etc. Next up, we got the addition of the ISO4 Recycler, and this is now more for the veteran players in the game. It's now found in the depot, and it allows you to exchange excess ISO4 for a chance at one random implant. Less common tier 1s and exceptional implants have a higher drop rate in this pack, and I'm assuming I know that the less common ones, in particular the Cat-like is one of them, as well as the Assimilate implant, as well as the Battle-hardened implant. Also, I know Vampire is one of those as well. So these are the different ones that the ones that are harder to get that you're going to be able to get easier by using the ISO4 Recycler. And of course, the exceptional ones. Right now, these are the Counterintelligence and the Minor Cloak ones. I still don't have Counterintelligence on any of my characters, so I probably will be using the ISO Recycler. I haven't used it yet to try and get the Counterintelligence one on at least one of my classes, one of my characters. My main character, my NC character, has every non-exceptional one. I know my Vano character, which doesn't have everything, does have access to Minor Cloak. And like I said, I don't have a Counterintelligence on any of my classes, so that's really the one I think I will be working for the most and would give me the most reason to use the ISO4 Recycler itself. And I do like the fact that it allows you a chance to get those harder to obtain implants rather than it just being a complete random number generator when buying the implant packs themselves. Moving along, talking about cosmetics, Fuzzbucket's Spartan armor was now moved into being able to be purchased individually for all your new conglomerate characters, so you no longer are forced to just purchase the complete bundle to buy all of them. You can buy individual sets of them. Fuzzbucket, again, I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of the Spartan armor, but still good work that you did regardless. Also, a number of Player Studio outfit decals were added in this hotfix. So if your outfit has been waiting for a while for their decal to make it in-game, you should check to see if it has been added now. Next, there were a bunch of miscellaneous adjustments and bug fixes to the game. I'm not going to go through all those, but the big bug that has cropped up with this hotfix is the outfit issue, where sometimes you show up as not in an outfit, even though you have not been kicked out of that outfit. They are working on it. They want to thank everybody for their patience while they work on it. As I've said, the way to get around this for me has always been log into my character, realize I'm not in the outfit, log out of that character, log into a different one, log out of that character and log back into the original, and usually I am back in the outfit and it's fixed without any issues. So if you are experiencing it, that's what I would suggest you do at this point. You do not need to leave your outfit and then rejoin it. I know that sucks for a lot of people who have been long-time members of an outfit to leave their outfit and then rejoin it just to fix this particular bug. So definitely don't do that, because there is a workaround to get around that. Because like I said, I have done it myself, and that's how I have countered this bug itself. So again, I'm titling this as a controversial hotfix, and like I said, a few topics down, I'm going to talk about. Actually, I think I'm going to swap some topics around, and I'm going to talk about that next. All right, so this topic is now going to be the controversial nature of this hotfix, and I'm tentatively titling it, "You will not receive implant packs for finished directives," because that's the title of the Reddit post that seems to be causing the biggest amount of saltiness or unhappiness within the community. And again, what's going on is that if you are an existing character and you've already completed all these tier 1 directives that reward implant packs, you are not getting those retroactively. And that certainly has made the community, especially a lot of the existing players, pretty unhappy, because obviously they want free certs. And who doesn't want free certs? Because when I initially encountered this and saw that we were not getting them retroactively, I was a little disappointed with that as well, because I certainly put in the time and received, finished these directives a long time ago. I don't think that I have any tier 1 class directives still outstanding. I should probably go check that, because maybe I could get myself a couple free certs. Free implants on definitely on my main character. I know I've completed pretty much all of it, but I should definitely check, because I know it would only take about an hour's worth of gameplay to finish the tier 1 on just about all your character. Finish a tier 1 class directive. So I guess now is a decent time for everybody to go and do a little housekeeping on their directive lists and actually see if they have some of these outstanding that they can complete and earn themselves a couple free implants. I'm definitely going to have to log in and check mine to see if there's anything, but I'm pretty sure on my main character, at least, I have completed all of them. I certainly have a number of alts that I play where most likely I haven't completed every single one, so I could certainly finagle a few free implants out of it. But obviously, like I said, on my main character, I've completed these directives. I don't really understand why I am getting screwed out of not receiving free implants when I have done this already. And the precedent has already been set where they have retroactively awarded things. And I mean, you can talk about directives themselves. It's not like they made everybody start fresh on these directives when they rolled them out, because directives were not originally in the game when the game launched. So they made a lot of those retroactive, or they made everyone you've completed retroactive, so that you didn't have to grind your way through them a second time. They certainly could have done that. So like I said, again, there is precedent in the game for them to retroactively award things. But we know, because we have a post or a response to this from RadarX, who writes, and I quote, "We do understand the concern, but in general, no one is at a severe disadvantage because of this change. Veterans are usually already sitting on a pretty high number of certs or can earn them quickly. This isn't who we are targeting with this. This change is to help smooth the earlier journey which many of you have passed already." End quote. So as you can see, this is a straight-up decision by Daybreak Games to try and even out the playing field for newer players who do not have access to the boatloads of certs that a lot of us veteran players do. I mean, I know when I was doing, or when I was first purchasing all of my implants, I was sitting on 9,000 or 10,000 certs at the time. So it really did not hurt me to spend 6, 7, 8, 10,000 certs to try to unlock all the various implants that I was looking for. And really, I was just trying to suss out battle-hardened and cat-like, and it took me forever to get cat-like, but I ultimately did, and then I have both of those at rank 5 at this point. So really, besides counterintelligence, and on my main character, obviously, both of the exceptionals, that's really what I am looking for at this point. So I don't really need the free certs, but I could certainly take them and turn them into ISO 4 at this point and use the ISO 4 recycler. So us veterans are certainly missing out on something like that. But even though I'm salty over the whole thing, and I know a lot of the community is salty over this, I understand where the direction this is going. And it is like RadarX said, it's not designed for veterans. It's designed for new players or people who have not been playing the game as long as some of us have. We're going on for over 4 years at this point playing this game. So they're really not targeting us, because for the most part, the majority of us did drop right in, spend a whole bunch of certs on getting the implants that we wanted, and that's that. It is something that they're looking to reward newer players, and again, even that playing field. Now, that takes care of the low end, and they're already assuming that the high end are, those of us over BR 100. I'm just going to use that as the arbitrary number there. I know there are certainly some of us lower than that have plenty of certs, but using everybody over BR 100 as an example, that's the higher end where we can just spend our certs and get whatever, buy a bunch of implant boxes and get what we need. But I think Daybreak Games is missing out on that middle group of players. And I mean, we'll say those are people between BR 50 and BR 75 or 60 to 90. There's definitely a subset of players who have been playing the game for a while, have been using all their certs to unlock things within a particular class, and don't have a way of getting a high number of certs quickly like us over BR 100 players do. And I do think that the devs are missing out on making those people happy within the game themselves. Like I said, they've catered to the newer players, and they're dismissing the higher players, but I do think we have that middle tier that are kind of getting screwed over more than anybody else by this particular change. Now, I can see the argument from Daybreak Games being that a lot of those players may not have finished all the Tier 1 directives for the different classes, and if they spend some time working on those, they can unlock the free implants, and that's that. Again, I can understand that, but I still think it's unfair that if you've got somebody who's in that mid-range, has dabbled around with all the classes, completed all those Tier 1s, and is kind of screwed out of it and just doesn't get them. Maybe they'll think about offering it for Tier 2 directives. Maybe not. I don't know. I kind of think that what we have is what we're going to get, and there's just going to be this amount of anger within the community itself regarding not receiving implants for finished directives. As I've said multiple times, I'm not too excited about it because I would have loved to have logged in after this hotfix and received 5, 6, 7 different packs of implants and unlocked a bunch of free ones, gotten some extra ISO 4 and maybe gone over to the ISO 4 charger and used those up and tried to get some of the exceptionals that I don't have. But now I can't do that, and more so those people in that middle bracket, which I think are probably losing out the most regarding this. That's what it is. But again, clearly this was designed to attract and retain new players by making that beginning field a little more even. And I know the new player experience is something that a lot of people talk and complain about, that it is not well developed or designed within this game itself. Yet when the developers try to push something specifically to help the new player experience, all of us veterans shit all over it. So I think we need to at least take a step back and look at that as well, that this is a way to kind of beef up that new player experience itself. I guess the TLDR on this, I'm not happy with it, but I certainly can, it makes sense to me why it's being done, but I'll still remain unhappy about it, and I will also feel sadness, I guess is not the best word for it, but the only word that I can think of at this time, sadness for those people that are in that middle bracket, those BR 50s to BR 75 or BR 80 or something that probably could have used these extra implants, and now we'll have to continue to, bust out 750 certs just to unlock one of the bigger packages of implants to get all the different ones that they need, because obviously the random number generator is not always kind to everyone. So I think I will end this particular topic as that. Like I said, I'm not happy with it, but I certainly understand it. All right, let's move backwards and talk about what I wanted to talk about second, but now we'll move to the third item this week. And this is regarding the PlayStation 4 Planetside 2 construction test that we had last week. So I believe it was on May 12th, which was Friday. There was a half-hour construction test, which finally occurred. It's been a while since construction has even been mentioned over on the PlayStation 4 side of the game. But the consensus that I have seen, I I'm not going to lie, I'm with a lot of the players that had no idea that this was going on. Had I known that this was going on Friday, I would have stopped whatever it was that I was doing at this time. I don't think that I was doing anything, as a matter of fact, and I would have hopped into the PlayStation 4 and gone and checked out this test to see how my frames were going to act on it. So I'm in the same boat as a lot of PlayStation 4 players in not having any clue that this was going on. But basically, the consensus from what I'm reading and from what I'm hearing from PlayStation 4 players is that the frame rates that people were receiving during the tests were much lower than expected and certainly do not contribute to a playable game session. A lot of them were reporting lower than 20 frames per second, and this is while the bases were empty but constructed. PlayStation 4 Pro users appeared to see no real decline in the frames per second. They were getting a static 30 at all times, and it wasn't too much of an issue for them. So I don't think that bodes well for a first round of testing or a first round of recent testing for the construction system. And I'm hoping that Daybreak Games kind of takes this back offline a little bit more and sees what they can do to kind of improve the FPS, because I do not think that this is good for live play at this point, and it really doesn't bode well for non-PlayStation 4 Pro owners like myself. Again, I can only hope that these are the first rounds of new testing and not a final iteration, because if that's the case, I will be even less of a fan of construction on the PS4 as I am on the PC now. Some other things that I will at least mention, I know a lot of people are talking about them turning shadows off or tweaking the shadows on the PlayStation 4 version of Planetside 2, and that might help with the FPS for a lot of players. But I don't know if that is fully in the cards, because as we know, when they launched Planetside 2 on the PlayStation 4, they launched it as a full-featured, this is how the game we want it to look, and this is how we expect it to look always. So I don't think that we're going to see any changes to the shadows or whatnot. But irregardless, the current iteration of the construction test on PlayStation 4, I do not think it is where it needs to be, and I'm sure Daybreak Games knows it's not where it needs to be as well. And hopefully they've taken it offline to try and tweak with a few things. And I hope to see some announcements, much more in the future before they actually happen, so that more people can actually get in and play around with them. And I know for this particular test, they weren't looking for a ton of people to play on it, but still, there are a lot of us that are interested in what happens on the PlayStation 4 and want to be on top of things that happen on the PlayStation 4. So if any of the devs are listening, please do a better job of announcing things like this so more of us can get in and play around on these tests and give you the valuable feedback that you are looking for. The fourth and final topic this week is going to be about a new implant that has magically appeared on the public test server. This new one is called Communications Hacker or Com Hacker at this point. I don't know if the name will change or not, but basically at rank 1, killing an enemy within 5 meters will detect real-time movements of enemies within 20 meters on the minimap for 5 seconds for you only. At rank 2, it is 8 meters. At rank 3, it is 14 meters. At rank 4, it is at 20 meters. And if you max out the implant itself, it will read as killing an enemy within 20 meters will detect real-time movements of enemies within 20 meters on the minimap for 5 seconds for you. And this ability will now detect cloaked targets, which is kind of interesting because there's really no other way to detect cloaked targets at this point. Now, although it does not specifically say on the public test server that this is an infiltrator-only implant, people who have tested this out are confirming that you can only use this as an infiltrator. So this does now appear to be the missing infiltrator implant on PTS and not Nightmare, which was the knifing one, as people assumed. And specifically Dave over on YouTube, who commented that, I quote, that infiltrator perk sounds like absolute shit, end quote. He was speaking about Nightmare. You and I, Dave, can now rest a little bit easier knowing that there is a infiltrator-specific implant coming to the game itself. So again, Com Hacker is the name. If you are an infiltrator main and you want to load this up over on the test server and play around with it, I do kind of like this particular one. It certainly means that if you're a solo infiltrator, you might be using the recon darts or the motion spotter less because you have something like this. I mean, obviously you're using that to help your teammates as well. But if you're just playing solo, you might be running this instead and using it. Certainly, I like this one a lot better than when I thought Nightmare was the implant that was going to be infiltrator only. And it does also open up some different things for Nightmare if all players are going to be able to use that one. So now we have a couple different knife-specific implants, Vampire and Nightmare now. We could see some interesting combos of those two together with different play styles. So, again, new implant on the PTS. If you are an infiltrator main, you probably want to go in and check that out.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
All right, I do have some listener mail. Before I get to that, though, there was a post on my most recent show, or last week's show, from Hipshot27 that I wanted to take a minute and actually just read through, because I do think that he does bring up a good counter argument to my hate of what Rel was talking about last week. And so Hipshot27 writes, at about the 15-minute mark of this episode, and he means episode 104, you do some talking about the type of vehicle spawning Rel suggested and make it clear that you're strongly against this direction. I know there's already a lot of discussion on Reddit, but I'd like to argue against you for a second here anyway. I think this direction could actually be a great one for the game. I'm an engineer, and I spend a lot of time in and around vehicles, be it mine or the enemy's. In my experience, vehicles are fun to fight as both infantry and other vehicles, except in cases where an enormous armor ball is present. Oftentimes, this isn't a coordinated thing. In my experience, these armor balls form when people have just captured a base, and everyone is trying to get to the next one. Everyone pulls a massive amount of armor, and the fight at the next base ends up being dominated by them. The fight at Regent Rock is the first one to come to mind for me. With Rel's suggested system in place, the massive blob of armor sitting outside the tower would be reduced significantly due solely to convenience. If someone really wanted to pull a tank and the tanks at the base they're at are all fielded, going back a base to pull is still an option. It's just not something people will do without thinking. I assume that with a system like this, armor will always be available at the warp gate. This way, armor can be pulled as long as you have the nanites, and the BR-15 can have his uncerted Viper Lightning without being a huge hindrance to the team, but pulling armor requires people to be a little more deliberate and thoughtful, which is what I think Rel is going for here. I like to think a system like this would also vitalize logistics, open up the possibility for interaction, and give construction roadblocks a role in ways that the current unlimited armor from one base system doesn't. Hope I was cohesive and not too rambling there. Love the podcast. Keep it up. All right. So, Hipshot27, I understand your argument on all this, and certainly a situation like that definitely does make sense to me. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is the reality that is Planetside 2 at this time. I don't think that there is a lot of coordination after a base is captured. And you're exactly right. Everyone does pull a massive amount of armor and try to move as quickly as possible to the next fight. And I think my fear is still founded when I think that someone who is not part of the logistics, has no idea, isn't listening to orders chat, isn't coordinating between outfits is going to be one of those first people to pull armor every single time. And they're going to pull the worst sunder they possibly can, and they're going to drive it somewhere that no one else wants to go to. And I'm afraid that that's what might happen with what Rel is suggesting. That doesn't mean that I don't understand why he's trying to put something like this into this game. And I'd be more than willing to see something like this come to live, play around with it for a while, and see if it makes sense for Planetside 2. I may not like it on first blush or on paper, but that doesn't mean I'm not willing to play around with it and actually see that it works. Currently, it doesn't affect me too much in game because I play with an infantry-centric outfit where we spend a lot of time grabbing Valkyries from warp gates and hitting bases as fast as possible. So I can certainly understand that maybe I'm not the best person to talk about this because I don't spend a lot of time in armor because of the way my outfit plays this game. So again, I appreciate your kind of putting this into terms or kind of explaining it out further than Rel did on the video itself, with perhaps how he was thinking on this particular topic. And I appreciate you taking the time to actually write it down on my website as well. And I invite anybody, after listening to a show, dropping onto the website. There's a comment section after every show. You can certainly leave comments. I love interacting with you guys there. And I'd be happy to read a lot of stuff on the show, like what Hipshot27 just wrote. Next up, I do have an email from Aaron. And he wrote, regarding the anti-Zerg stuff, I just don't get it. If there's too many enemies around, go somewhere else. The massive battles, even if one-sided, are hilarious, fun, and define the character of the game. If you are an absolutely awful player like me who gets owned as soon as he spawns, the massive enemy Zergs are the very best part of the game. Spawn a few bases away, drive up in an ant to the very far outskirts of the base, and wreak havoc. Total fun. Deploy a Sunday and get free certs and create hilarious anti-armor archer squads. Destroying the open-ended nature of gameplay seems like a seriously bad idea. Viva le Zerg. I don't know that I agree with everything completely about that, Aaron, but I certainly understand that if that's your gameplay and you enjoy something like that, then that's how you're going to play the game. They have pushed it on us multiple times now that there is no wrong way to play Planetside 2. So if that's how you enjoy playing the game, so be it. I still think that Zergs probably aren't the best way for this game to go, but hey, at least you're out there trying to break them up. And I certainly enjoy archer squads myself. That is going to be it for this week's show, though. So how can you get in touch with me or the show itself? As always, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email like Aaron did. It's instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, 347-486-4772. That's 347-4VM4PS2. The show's Twitter account is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. So in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.